Okay, here goes video number 235, or attempt to make video number 2. The first video, oh gosh, that was just a mess. So, the purpose of this video is going to be LGBTQ 101, and it's really to get an understanding of the basic terms of LGBTQ life and what does it mean and what does it stand for and all that good stuff. So I thought some of the things that we'll kind of talk about, or that I'll kind of talk about in the video, will be really identifying some differences that people should know, some basic differences that they should know. For instance, that when you're talking about the LGBTQ community, you're really talking about at least 4 different concepts, and that's sex and gender, or sex versus gender, as well as sexual orientation and sexual identity. And all these things are different, but yet can kind of be so alike. And I think that's why many people kind of really get misguided and confused, and sometimes interpret it the wrong way. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the basic terminology, because this can get really complex, really fast, really easy. But here we go. So we're going to go ahead and take the LGBTQ. Now, the L is going to stand for lesbian, someone who identifies as a female who happens to like, not happens to like, who likes other females. And that's lesbian. Lesbianism. The G is going to be gay, someone who identifies as male who also likes other males. Okay? Now, bisexual, or the B is for bisexual, someone who identifies as one, so they may be female, who happens to like and has the capacity to engage in romantic feelings, as well as sexual feelings, maybe that's the word I'm looking for, who can engage in sexual activity with another female, and also with another male, and vice versa, someone who identifies as male who has the capacity to engage with females as well as other males. This is actually new silverware that we happened to buy because the last silverware we had went missing. Somehow I have no idea where all our forks are at, but they're definitely not in my car. So proceeding forward, and then we're gonna have T. Now, T is going to be for transgender, the transgender part of the community. So what we're going to talk about in a few is that being trans is going to really be different from being the LGBT, or the LGB part, the lesbian, gay, and bisexual, because being trans is going to be part of gender identity, whereas the other 3 were part of sexual orientation. So part of the difference right there, right? Okay, and then there's like so much more that we could talk about each and every one of these subjects, but proceeding forward, and then the Q. So if you talk to, depending on who you talk to, will differ on what the Q stands for. Some people will say the Q stands for questioning. I'm like, no, bump that. The Q stands for queer. What it means to be queer in a nutshell. I have all my shoes around me, by the way, so I'm just gonna happen to pick up a pair of these shoes. Ooh, the dirty ones, right? So it means to take something and pretty much flip it on its head. So take a concept and rework it. So why do we believe that? And part of being LGBT, in a sense, is being queer, because it's really challenging the connotations of what it means. And so the first 3 letters, lesbian, gay, and bisexual, have to do with sexual identity, or sexual orientation, and the trans and the queer part have to do with gender identity, and we'll talk about that in a few. So we talked about the basic understanding of it, and like I said, there's so much more that we can jump off to, but we're not going to. So from there, we have to understand that there's going to be a difference between sex and gender. Sex is going to be something that you're born with, or that we are all born with, and it has to do with our genitalia. Oh, excuse me, I wasn't very ladylike. I had my hot Cheetos earlier. Wendy, shout out. So proceeding forward though, sex is going to be dealing with birth. If you are born with a penis, then you're going to be identified as a boy. If you're born with a clitoris, do people still say that? Vagina, you will be identified as a girl. So male, female. And then that's what's going to be sex in general. And then gender. Gender is going to be how you identify, and which it can change. So if you are born a male, then as you kind of proceed through life, and then you get in your adolescent years, and then you get a little older, if you are a male, then you're gonna become a man in particular, and if you are a female, you become a woman. And so these types of things can change. Gender has to deal with how you identify, and for trans people in general, it's going to really change or it's going to be different because they were born into the wrong sex. He's eating Cheez-Its. But going forward with that though, so sex has to deal with what you're born with, and kind of, I don't want to say it's what you have, because the purpose of this video is kind of to give a spotlight to all LGBTQ members of the community, but with trans folk in particular, gender identity is going to be more so involved with them, and how they deal with it. But like I said, that's a whole video, whole nother concept on its own. So sex versus gender. Sex is going to be more so how you're born, and then identity is how you develop through life. And then we have sexual orientation versus gender identity, which is going on to that as well. Lesbian, gay, bisexual have to deal with sexual orientation, who you can share romantic feelings for, and who you like, right? Ooh, too many hot Cheetos. And then you have gender identity, and gender identity is going to be, once more, how someone identifies. So you can identify as, oh shit, fuck. Sorry for the language, but this is YouTube, and this is my channel, so I can say what I want to say. Proceeding forward though, where was I? Shit, lost my train of thought. I'm not going to go on other subjects here. Ugh, why do I have this over here? Okay, real quick story. I was gonna share how, you have bisexuals, and not bisexuals, it was gay men and lesbians, and it was going to be bisexuals, and when you have queer, you really take something and turn it on its head. But where's this video even going anymore? So we defined some of the terms as far as LGBTQ, and kind of really knowing what they deal with on a day-to-day basis. And here's some of the things that you should really know as far as identifying under the spectrum, because they are all different, yet we are so alike in a lot of our stories, and within our coming out stories as well. So some of the things that you should know, that one of them is that coming out is a constant process. It's not a one-time thing. It's not a bam, I'm out of the closet, so that's all I have to do. It's a continual process, because as we change jobs, as we get new friends, as we get into new social spheres, as we meet new people, they have questions. People have within the human experience, people have that curiosity within them, and they just always they feel that they have to know, and so they feel they have to ask somebody, are you gay? Are you trans? Oh, I knew that, which is part of the next things that you really should know about people who identify under the spectrum, is that we don't seek validation. We're not trying to be passable. While I'm sure there are some people who try to be passable within our community, that's not a goal for us. Our goal is to live within our own truth, and it's to come to terms within our own self, and that's what it is. Most of the struggle we deal with is the inner struggle, and it's accepting ourselves. It's not necessarily for the world to accept us, but for us to accept ourselves, which is why the suicide rate is just so much higher for people who identify under the LGBTQ spectrum. But these are some of the terms. I did almost a 10-minute video. I hope you gained some more knowledge. I have a hat on because my hair is ugly. But anyways, I hope you gained some information. This is just the first video on what I hope is many more to come. But if you have any questions, definitely leave them down below. Thanks. Bye.